So, Diego Bernal, I hope you know this guy, because you're going to be voting for him for state representative, District 123. He's one of my favorite politicians because he's so authentic and so genuine. And sometimes I feel like when I talk to a politician, I'm not sure who I'm talking to and what they're like once they go home, but this guy's real, and I love that about him. And he's in his community, and he's listening to what people have to say. And what else was I supposed to, I don't even know what I was supposed to say about you. Advocating for working people, children, and immigrant communities, and just an amazing guy. And his sign said, John Henry, the job. And I've had people ask me, what does that mean? So now he can tell you firsthand.
First of all, it's former councilman. I don't have the job anymore. And I do respect the nonpartisan, nonprofit sort of standing of DreamWeek. So I'll just say I'm currently looking for a new job. I just went through a large group interview, and we're waiting for the GM to schedule the next group interview. I want to tell you 3 stories, and it goes to my quote. The first is the story of John Henry. For those of you who don't know, the legend of John Henry comes from West Virginia. It's about a freeman who goes and finds work on the railroad. And there are a number of people who are also freemen and working on the railroad, and they've been promised 5 acres if they complete the track. There's a moment where they're working where another person from a big company comes and introduces an automated machine to drill through the mountain that they have to get around. It's a big band actually. And so John Henry, who is a very prideful person, but also knows that the other workers are depending on him, he says, look, if I can do more than this machine in the same amount of time, then you'll keep your word and allow everybody to keep their 5 acres. And so what he does is he grabs 2 20-pound hammers in a competition with the machine. They go after the mountain. By the end of the competition, he has outworked the machine. It is a true feat of human determination. At the end of the competition, after giving it all that he had, he dies. That's not what I want for myself. However, at the moment that I wrote that, some of you may remember I got into some trouble. I was trying to pass an ordinance that protected everybody in town. And there were a group of people who were trying to... There were a group of people who were trying very desperately, 1, to get me out of office, and 2, to repeal that ordinance. And I will admit to you that in the first 6 weeks of that moment, I was sort of shook. I've only been in politics for a couple of years. I was worried about what they were doing, going door to door, and telling all these terrible stories about me. But I realized that the very worst thing that could happen to me, the worst thing in my life, was losing an election. And if that's the biggest problem in my life, that's pretty good. So now I want to tell you a story about a young man named Hector Morales. I met Hector Morales when I was in law school. I was not a good law student. I was terrible. I was great at undergrad, sailed through it. Social work school, easy. Come on, just be a nice person, right? When I got to law school, I realized I was not the smartest person in the room anymore. And it just slapped me down, so I struggled through it. Hector Morales was a civil rights attorney working out of LA who came to visit my law school and gave a talk about immigrants' rights and school finance. In fact, the law firm that he worked for, that I eventually worked for, continued to litigate the Edgewood cases. Right after law school, I went to work for that organization to litigate what would be the 7th version of the Edgewood cases. And Hector flew down from Los Angeles to work with us. And I got to know him, and he said something to me that was amazing. He went to Columbia Law School. And he said, I wasn't the smartest person in my class, but there is no way I would let those other people outwork me. And so in that case, there were 4 attorneys. We were suing the state of Texas, so that was Greg Abbott, Ted Cruz, and everybody else. And I had never felt so overwhelmed and outdone, but we gave it everything that we had. And what I think is special about today, about that quote, about all the previous speakers, about DreamWeek and even about the art, is that what makes the city unique is that people give it everything they have. In this city, we leave nothing, we leave it all out on the field. There's nothing left. People just give it everything they've got, and at the end, they let the results sort of speak for themselves. And so at that moment, when you came to take my picture, that's what I was feeling. It was like, let's just do it, and whatever happens, happens. I'm sorry the face is ugly, but the message is nice. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you guys.